Residence Life live Q&A as well as dining. My name is Kendall Peak, and I serve as an assistant director for Residence Life. We thank you for joining us. We have about an hour's worth of time to spend with you and know that things have been rapidly changing, and I'm sure that everyone has a lot of questions. Our hope is to provide you with some information that's going to help you make some decisions. You all submitted nearly 300 questions, so we have a pretty long agenda to get through tonight, and we know that we might not get to everything. So if you do have questions, please submit them to the attached link, and we will actually try to update those questions on our Fall 2020 page that'll be updated as we get information. So at this time, what I wanted to do was introduce our panelists, and what they can do is just share their name and their role, and we'll begin with Sean Grube.
Good evening. My name is Sean Grube. I'm informally known as the Director of Bald and Beautiful Affairs here at Virginia Tech, more formally known as the Director of Housing and Residence Life. And I just wanted to say thank you all for tuning in tonight. I know you've got a lot of great questions, and we can't wait to share with you what fall is going to look like here at Virginia Tech.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chelsea Lambusta. I am the Associate Director for Housing Services.
Good evening. My name is Amber Mullen, and I am the Associate Director for Residence Life.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Kwiatkowski, and I serve as the Associate Director for Academic Initiatives. So I work with our Living Learning programs here at Virginia Tech. Good to see you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brendan Hendricks. I'm an Associate Director here with Dining Services at Virginia Tech. Thank you for being here.
All right, so we will start with Mr. Bald and Beautiful. Sean, if you could give us a little bit of information how Housing and Residence Life is responding to COVID-19 and what is being done to prepare us for the fall.
Sure, thanks, Kendall. You know, I have worked in Housing and Residence Life for about 25 years at this point. So I started out as a student staff member and have managed to trip over myself and become a director. And so, you know, this is a really strange time, and we've made a lot of important decisions, and really we are making those in the interest of our students and what is safe for our Blacksburg community. So a few things that I want to call everyone's attention to. You know, the first is that we have reduced our on-campus occupancy. So we can traditionally have close to 10,000 students on campus. We have reduced that by reducing our higher population areas, so our triples or you know, larger facilities. So we're down to about 9,000 students total that will reside in double accommodations on campus. As many of you know, we went through an administrative process to cancel all housing contracts. So we have asked students to accept some new terms and conditions, which do include our health and wellness commitment that talk about social distancing, talk about the importance of being together in community. And we've asked everybody to re-sign those, and it's really important that everyone re-signs those that has been invited to by 11:59 on June 16th. So we've got about 5 days away from that. You know, the majority of students have been invited to recontract, but we do have some folks who have the opportunity to be on a wait list. We are doing everything we can to recontract all our first-year students. So as of this evening, we had about 2/3 of the students that we have offered to recontract have gone ahead and done that. And we have worked through about 2/3 of the folks that are eligible on our wait list. So if you have not done so already, I really encourage you to make sure that you're checking your Virginia Tech email, that you're signing yourself up for the wait list so that we can work really hard to make sure that you're on campus for this fall. We're in the process of creating an updated move-in plan, so that will be the next big piece of information. It'll extend over a number of days. It'll be metered, so we only have a number of people on campus at a certain time. But we're really excited to just have all of our Hokies here. We miss you, and we want you to be on campus. We've created a website so that you can find all of our updates in one easy-to-find location. So we encourage you to take a look at our regularly updated website. It's www.housing.btu.edu/fall 2020. And thank you.
So our first set of questions kind of center around the housing contract. As Sean shared, that there were some changes to our housing contract with the addition of some conditional terms with regards to health and well-being. So these questions are for Chelsea. So people are wondering, how can they verify, that their housing contract is complete? What does the waiting list look like, and how does that work? And whether or not do all freshmen have to live on campus, so our residency requirement, excuse me. And then lastly, what does contracting mean for some of our specialized communities such as Oak Lane or the Corps Cadets?
Thanks, Kendall. Great questions. So first, to verify that your housing contract's complete and you've done everything you'll do, first you'll log into the STARS portal, and you're going to read over the health and well-being commitment and the updated terms and conditions, and you'll type in your Virginia Tech ID number at the bottom of both of those and hit submit. You'll know you have those completed because you'll get an email that is sent to your Virginia Tech email that verifies the time and date that you reviewed those terms and submitted them. Additionally, when you log into the portal, you can see under housing contracts that your contract says under contract. Under contract is the perfect status to be in and exactly what you're looking for. You also asked, how does the wait list work? So we are reviewing the wait list on a regular basis and releasing students as we are able. I am regularly monitoring our cancellations versus people on the wait list and trying to accommodate as many as possible. Do freshmen have to live on campus? No, not this year. So for the 2020-2021 academic year, the first year live on requirement has been waived. So it is not a requirement of your admissions or anything within the standing of the university to live on campus. But of course, we would love to have you, and we hope that you join us on campus. Kendall, you asked about the Corps in Oak Lane. All of our students on campus, their housing contracts were canceled. So that is the same for Oak Lane and the Corps. So students should complete those. If they are living in Oak Lane or the Corps, they should log in, do the health and well-being commitment, and address or sign the updated terms and conditions. Thank you.
Awesome. And one other question that kind of came through: if students decided to stay home in the fall, will there be space for them in the spring? And what does that mean for their housing contract as well?
So that's a really good question. If a student is not planning on coming in the fall, they can put themselves on a wait list for the spring. The wait list for spring will open up in late September or in October. So students can place themselves on the wait list, and then we will release students as we are able for the springtime. We like to review those in November and December. But that's definitely the way to do if students are not planning on joining us this fall.
Awesome. Thanks for that. The next set of questions kind of center around finances. And these questions will be directed at Sean. And so folks were kind of wondering, in the case that there is a second wave of the coronavirus in our country and students aren't able to be on campus, will there be an offer of a rebate or a refund of some sort? And how does that, I guess, kind of play into contracts for the semester? Does that change our terms or anything like that? And, kind of, is there a standard rate for residence halls or not?
Thanks, Kendall. Well, first of all, you can find our rates online. So if you go to the website, bt.edu/housing, on the right hand, you'll see the menu link where you can find the rates. And we have different types of rates for different types of facilities. So later on, we'll probably be talking a little bit about room selection. And just know when you do select a room, you're selecting the applicable rate for that type of building and room that you're selecting. So, I think the main question focuses on, hey, if we end up depopulating campus, if I want to go home, I'm not feeling comfortable, like, what does that mean for me? So I do want to draw everyone's attention to the updated terms of the contract. So it does focus on letting folks know that we are not planning to currently offer a rebate or refund if we do have to depopulate. Now, things could change. We just don't know what our fall is going to look like. I think we're all really trying to make sure that our students have a wonderful time here at Tech, that they have a great community to be a part of, but also know that the health and safety of our students is really at the forefront of our decision making. So, you know, it's not money, but it's health and safety that really guides our decisions. And so we just want to make sure that we are doing everything that's best for you. There's a lot of other practices that we'll kind of talk about how we welcome our students to campus. But we just don't know what the fall is looking like. You know, we know that there's a lot of concern about flu season and how that might mix with COVID. And we've got some great folks that work for the university that are monitoring that on a consistent basis, that we are meeting with consistently, and just know that everything we're doing for the fall is really focused around making sure that you have a wonderful time here in Blacksburg at Tech, and that you are safe, happy, and healthy when you're with us.
Thanks, Sean. One of the things that I know we kind of pride ourselves on in Housing Residence Life is providing this space where students can really have an awesome experience, not just a place to kind of lay your head. And that is often done kind of just not only in, you know, your general experience, but a lot of students take advantage of any of our learning programs that we offer. And so folks are really kind of curious as to what's going to happen around LLPs. And so question is for Matt. What is going on? Are living learning programs going to still happen? Can people still apply? You know, what happens to multi-purpose space or studio space? And for some folks who have mentioned having signed a 2-year contract with a residential college, how does this kind of impact their second year? But yeah, folks want to know the scoop. What's going on with LLPs?
Thanks, Kendall. Emphatically, yes, LLPs are definitely happening for this coming academic year. So you can look forward to a range of different activities. Obviously, we want to be able to be physical distancing. So a lot of what's going to be happening will be in person, will be maybe more one-on-one, small group, and we will also be using many online platforms. So we'll be using a common phrase that we're hearing a lot lately of a hybrid model for engagement. So can you still apply? Yes, you can. If you do have that new contract that has been already discussed, once you complete that contract in StarRez, you will also then have access to apply to any of the living learning programs that are still accepting spaces. That deadline, though, is approaching. It is June 16th, same date as the housing contract deadline. So as you are completing that contract, please also take a look at the living learning programs and then definitely apply by that July 16th deadline. Also, speaking about, Kendall, I think you mentioned a little bit about common spaces and available spaces. So we will be working to identify which spaces can be used in appropriate physical distancing ways, and then which ones we may also not be able to use because the space is too small. So we're going to be working on that throughout this summer to make sure that all of our Hokies are coming in and are being safe. That is our top priority. And then I think you also asked about the 2-year contract. So for students who are in our residential colleges, if you are a returning student, meaning you lived in one of our residential colleges last year and you already have a contract with us, you can waive that contract for this coming year, and you can do that through StarRez. However, if you are an incoming student, an incoming first-year student, then you will be held to that 2-year contract, which is actually pretty good because you will have a contract for the current academic year, 2020, 2021, but then you'll also have it for 2021, 2022. So it does give you that benefit. I think those are all the questions. Thanks, Kendall.
Yeah, and I have one more for you. When will students find out if they're accepted to an LLP?
Absolutely, that's a really important one. So what'll happen is that after folks apply on June 16th, then you can expect to hear from all of our programs by June 19th. So there's that 3-day window. You'll hear by June 19th. Then you'll have until July 1st to accept that offer. So July 1st is the last opportunity that you would have to accept any offers. So again, the three important dates: June 16th to apply, you'll hear a response by June 19th, and then by July 1st to accept that offer.
Awesome. So our next set of questions kind of center around room selection. So this will be for Chelsea. Folks are kind of curious as to how will room selection work now that everything is kind of different?
Room selection. That is totally my most favorite part of my job. So let me tell you all about it. Room selection is going to start at the end of June and go throughout all of July. We'll start with our living learning programs, and then we're going to go in the order of the date and time that students sign their first housing contract, not the re-sign process. So how room selection works is you'll get an email to your Virginia Tech email. So it's really important that you check your email regularly throughout June and July. Once you get your time slot email, it will tell you the date and time that the STARS portal will go live for you. You'll log into STARS at that time. It is not like Ticketmaster. You don't have only 10 minutes. You'll log in, and you'll see all available spaces that are available to you as that student. So if you're in a living learning program like Meraki, you're only going to see Meraki spaces. If you're a general assignment student, you'll see all the general assignment buildings that are available for you at that point in time in the process. If you're in a roommate group, the roommate group leader will log in. They'll choose a completely empty room, place themselves in bed 1, place the roommate in bed 2, and that is how the room selection goes. I will say I always highly recommend and encourage that the roommate group leader is the person that signed their housing contract first, because time slots go in the order of the date and time of the contract. So it's really important that you want the most opportunity. So the roommate group leader should be the person that signed first, just so you can see more things.
Awesome. So some more specific questions around room selection. For students that might be on the wait list and then taken off, will they get to pick their roommates as well? And then given that we've set that there is a 2-student maximum in the rooms that they will be selected, will suites be an option next year?
Of course. So yes, suites are definitely an option. Our suites range from 4 people to 10 people. A suite inside a suite is a double occupancy room. So there will be 2 people per room within the suites. Students that are taken off the wait list, can they have a roommate? Yes. Once you sign the updated once you sign the health and well-being commitment and the updated terms and conditions, you can complete the roommate group process. You and your preferred roommate, you'll create that group, you'll make someone a group leader, and then you'll verify the group, and you'll be good to go for the time slot process.
Awesome. Thank you. So folks are talking about, how LLPs and their experience is going to be with roommates and how the contract is changing. Another big kind of area of questions that we received centered around move-in. Now that we're kind of gotten all of our selection done, we want to kind of get settled. So this question is for Sean. Specifically, when and how will kind of move-in happen, and what precautions are being taken, to kind of maintain safety for folks? And then I'll get to some more questions here in a second.
Thanks, Kendall. So move-in is one of my favorite topics to talk about. I told you that I have worked in housing and residence life for 25 years, and move-in day is like Res Life Christmas. Like, it is the most exciting time. We can't sleep the night before all of our students move in. We get so excited for them to come. So as you can imagine, at Virginia Tech, it is a huge planning process. We really make sure that we are studying things like traffic flow, the number of people in a given building at any given time, and that is just increased really as we talk about what we're doing in the era of COVID-19. So, the biggest question that we have is, when is it going to happen? I will tell you that we are actively planning that out right now. Traditionally, Virginia Tech moves in over a course of 3 days, basically. We are going to space that out. I think it'll probably be in the range of 4 to 6 days. I think we could do it in right around 4 days, but our our ACE planners are working on that, and I think we'll probably end up over about the course of 6 days to a week that we'll move in. We're going to do it in a really metered way. So, you know, we'll take precautions like not having two roommates move in necessarily at the same time. You know, maybe every other room is moving in at the same time. Single directions down hallways, that kind of stuff. So it's a really granular process, and we are spending a lot of time making sure that we get it right. You know, there's certainly a big question around what precautions are being taken. Our housing and maintenance cleaning staff and facility staff, they are some of the most dedicated, wonderful, hardworking folks possible. And they help us be equipped to sanitize our high touch points like doors, elevator buttons, cart handles, etc. And so we will have them on hand to help keep our facilities really clean and make sure that it's safe for all of you. But it's going to be a highly organized move-in process. We've got some unique ideas that we're partnering with folks, even around things like colored wristbands for certain times of the day to come in on campus. So, you know, there's some more information to come, but we're well along the way to announcing our move-in plans and hope to have that out relatively soon.
Awesome. So the next question, beyond precautions, you started to allude to some of this is about how will it actually work in the process. And so folks might be familiar with time slots in StarRez and how we use them for room assignments, but we're actually going to use them within our move-in process this year. And so this question is pretty much how will time slots work? You know, kind of the ins and outs of it, and what does that mean for folks that typically bring families, and how will that kind of be monitored? So any insight that you can provide around time slots, excuse me.
Absolutely. Yeah, so our time slots, we're really thinking of an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. move-in time slot. And so that's obviously 12 hours during a day, and we'll have 6 2-hour time slots. So you'll have a designated time that you will move in. We are asking that you bring 2 family members and only 2 family members, and those should be family members that are actively helping you move in at a given time. You know, we're asking the folks that might be, you know, more well-wishers and wanting to see you on your way, have that happen before you come to Blacksburg. So we're really trying to do everything that we can to reduce our occupancy. We envision that time slots will be a part of the room selection process. So we have a very, very large occupancy database that Chelsea kind of referred to. It's called StarRez. So Chelsea and her team are programming that wonderful database so that when you go in and find your room, we'll also have that tagged with the time slot that you'll be able to select. And so that you'll know nice and early when you're going to move into tech. You know, if for some reason that just won't work for you, you know, you're always welcome to call our office or email us at housing@vtd.edu. You know, we've got some wonderful folks who are always here to help you. So if you've got questions, we're going to help make sure that you have an awesome experience as you move in. It's going to be safe. It's going to be spread out, and we're going to help create a wonderful community for you.
Thanks. So when it comes to these time slots, when can folks expect to, you know when those time slots will be released? And what happens if they're not able to make the time slot that is assigned to them or that they receive? How can they go about either making changes or adjusting?
Sure. Well, I will tell you, we are still early in the process. There's a lot of work that has to go into StarRez to make the time slot process work. It's definitely not as easy as an Excel database, but the process that we are envisioning will actually allow you to select your own time slot. And so we hope to eliminate any of the conflicts that you might have. So again, that will limit the number of people in a building, in a floor, that can move in at any designated time. So again, it'll be a socially distanced situation. Certainly, if you have any questions or there's a conflict, just email us or call us at our housing office and we'll help you find a solution.
So last question about move-in. And I think this is something that, you know, if you were like my parents when they dropped me off, they wanted to stay and spend some time with me. They did not want to detach as quickly as I would have hoped. So parents want to know, you know, can families or folks come back, you know, after move-in to visit, to drop off things? What's going to be kind of like the monitoring of people coming in and out of the buildings? And then the big one was, can I move in early? Is that something that folks can do?
Sure. Can you move in early? So I'll take that one first. If you want to move in early, I would just suggest bringing a tent, and then you can just camp out on the quad overnight, and then we'll let you move in the next day. All jokes aside, no, please don't bring a tent and camp out in the quad. But no, we do monitor our move-in time. So your move-in day is carefully selected by your affiliation with tech and other things that you might be doing with the institution, whether it's participating in LLP programs or some other things. So your assigned move-in date and time is the time that you'll need to move in. Can parents and families come back after the move-in time slot? So I really want folks to think about this like summer camp, right? So when you drop off your wonderful child at summer camp, it's kind of like we're going to let you go for a little bit and explore the world. And that's best for everybody. It's certainly best for our social distancing, our physical distancing. So, you know, in the past, again, I told you I've been doing this for a couple of decades. I mean, I've seen people show up with like 20-foot U-Haul trucks worth of stuff. That's not what move-in is going to look like this year for sure. So we're asking folks to really bring their essentials, you know, to not be making, you know, dozens of trips to their car to move in. So we want you to pack light, pack efficiently, and certainly stick to your move-in time slot. So that's going to be really important for us. We will be monitoring those. So there'll be a system where you get really close to your facility for a certain amount of time, and then we're going to need you to move so that we can move our next group of folks in.
Awesome. So we're going to make a shift over to dining, Brandon, just in case you thought you were being neglected and out of the hot seat. So folks have been asking, what are some of the changes, if any, to meal plans due to COVID-19?
Yeah, I was feeling a little neglected there, so I appreciate getting some chance to engage here. Before I answer the question, I just want to say that the folks here in dining are used to running some really engaging and community-minded spaces, and it's just not the same without the students here. So we are looking forward to fall and getting that back up and running. So you asked a little bit about dining plans. At this point in time, we're not making any changes to the dining plans in response to COVID-19. Once we understand a little bit of our capacity, we may be able to phase in some more of the normal parts of the business, but that will be in reaction to what's going on in the community, what some of the governance is at that point in time, what we see is capable with our retrofitted facilities with some of the modifications that we'll make, and I'll expand upon those later. But at this point in time, we're not planning on making any huge changes to the fall dining plans. We do.
Awesome.
Yep, go ahead, Kendall.
So with respect to kind of adjustments, similarly to the ways in which we've been kind of implementing some precautions for move-in and living in the residence halls, folks are kind of curious, what kind of safety adjustments have been made to dining operations in consideration of COVID?
Yeah, lots. So to begin with, all of our dining employees, all the team members will be issued and required to wear face masks. Safety and sanitation are paramount. It's a guiding principle for the department and has been for some time, and moving forward, it'll be even more enhanced. We have the use of some new disinfectants. We're going to have some documented checklists for cleaning and sanitation for some of our higher touch points. We purchased some new electrostatic sprayers that we'll use in the dining room areas, and we'll have some increased number of hand sanitizers, exits, entrances, the high touch point locations. Physical distancing and cue markers are going to be spread throughout the facility, so it's a signal to the guests or the students, you know, where they need to space out. For the foreseeable future, we're going to be a cashless department. We've installed touchless card readers and they integrate with the Hokie Passport, and you just have to hold it there for a second and then it'll read the payment, so you won't have to hand your card back and forth between a cashier. We have plexiglass barriers getting installed in our dining rooms and our interaction points with the dining service staff. We're going to remove all of our self-service areas. That includes the salad bars, many of the self-service areas at D2. We have some enhanced use. We rely heavily on our use of Grubhub in the department, and we're going to enhance that as well this semester. So we eliminate some of those unnecessary interactions. And one of the big ones is moving around our dining rooms and making sure that we spread out tables, spread out chairs. We need to make sure that we're creating those social or physical distancing bubbles that are our standards that we're holding our facilities to. So there will be some pretty drastic reduced occupancy in the dining centers this fall.
Awesome. So we already know that we have some of the top dining in the country for college campuses, and maybe other folks don't know this as well, but you all do a great job of accommodating folks with specialized diets. And so one of the things that kind of came through as a question was, how were we going to kind of accommodate folks that have dietary restrictions?
Yeah, so again, not much will change in that strategy. What we've done in the past has worked for us, and I think for the guests that have access to the dining plan in the fall, it will continue to do so. The menus and recipes are written and then posted to online pages and our mobile dining app. The users can interface with that app. They can filter by the most common allergies. They can filter by some of the most common dietary preferences, vegan, vegetarian. There's also a function in that app where you can search for ingredients. So if there's a little bit more of a need to drill down, you can search for those ingredients as well. Our staff are trained in food safety and cross contact. We encourage, if there's a concern or a question, to touch base with the manager on duty, to touch base with the chef. They can get the answer, and they can show you how to use the dining app and navigate the space yourself. We've got 2 full-time registered dietitians on the staff, and they're a resource as well. If anyone needs to get in touch with them, you can email at yes@vt.edu. So yes@vt.edu to get a hold of them.
Awesome. So then the last kind of 2 questions that I'll ask, we'll clump them together because they're centered around living off campus. And so some of our students that are returning from last year live off campus, and they were curious about what happens to rollover funds from last year that they might use in the dining facilities. And then students that are generally going to live off campus want to know, will they be able to also have meal plans as prior?
Yeah, so you prefaced the last question touting the dining department, and we are very proud of our services and the engagement and involvement we have with the Hokie community here. We have historically had a very large off-campus dining plan group. We've made some decisions in response to COVID-19 that have been very hard. The last several months, we've done a lot of moves and a lot of shifting, and some things that typically would have taken months or years, we've done in days or hours. So looking ahead to the fall, looking at governance and policy and this restrictions, we know that our spaces are a consolidation of the population for the students. And we feel at this time that we won't be able to accommodate both on and off campus. And I know it's not been, it's not a great, a popular decision, but trust that we're doing that with the forefront of safety and health in mind. We are going to create a wait list of sorts. So if you are an off-campus student and interested in putting in for a wait list for a meal plan or a dining plan, we will make that available. Our hope is to quickly assess our capabilities when the fall arrives, and to start phasing in, similar to how we've seen phasing out and phasing in of retail and dining establishments across the country. We hope to quickly phase in some of those other normal dining plans that we've had offered in the past. If you were part of the spring 2020 meal plans and had those roll over to the fall, those remaining dollars will stay in place. So your flex dollars, your commuter cash, your flex edition, your dining dollars, those will all be available and spend like rates that you would have in the spring. You won't be able to add additions at this point in time. And the balance of those plans would have to be spent by the end of the fall 2020. We are, if you are living off campus and have flex rollover balance at this point in time, if you don't plan on using it, you can request a refund of that balance prior to August 1st. The refund will be for the flex balance and not for the administrative fees. But if you email hokiepassport@vt.edu and give them your email address, request a rebate, they'll be able to process that account in 1 to 2 weeks. If you need to know your balance, you can go to hokiepassport.vt.edu. It'll give you an idea of what your balance is, and you can use that information to make that decision.
Awesome, thanks. Speaking of food, Thanksgiving break, a lot of times folks go and get kind of filled up on the turkey and such, but we are also making some shifts with regards to post-Thanksgiving break. Folks will actually kind of make a hard shift to online instruction, excuse me. And so this question kind of centers around how things will be different post Thanksgiving and what will happen during winter break. So for Chelsea, folks want to know, will students be allowed to return to live on campus during the online instruction period? And then do students have to fully move out at that time?
Thanks, Kendall. So like we've done in the past for breaks, we will have a form of break housing registration available for students that are needing to stay on campus during Thanksgiving break and or after Thanksgiving break. So no, students do not need to move out from their room unless they're not planning to return to Virginia Tech in the spring. But if you're planning to return to Virginia Tech in the spring, then you can leave all of your personal items in your room during all of our breaks. And of course, we hope you return. But no, we'll have registration and then an approval process for those needing to stay after break.
Sweet, thank you. So we've been doing a lot of discussing around, our commitment to folks' health and safety and their well-being. And so we got a decent amount of questions around that kind of general topic or theme. And so these questions are for Sean. I'll kind of start with one and then we'll kind of do some follow-ups from there. How does Virginia Tech define quarantine as it relates to the 8-day quarantine that was kind of shared in the announcement that recently came out?
Thanks, Kendall. One thing that it's important that we get our words right. So quarantine and isolation are often two terms that people get confused. So quarantine talks about essentially limiting the contact when you're an asymptomatic individual. So this involves like people who might be traveling from hotspots or from different countries, things like that. So in that situation, you're monitoring your health, you are limiting your contact with new individuals. And so you're really trying to create that barrier if you were to develop symptoms. So what we're asking you to do is the 8 days prior to coming to Virginia Tech, we're asking you not to travel to any new areas. We're asking you to make sure that if you do leave your home, you're taking great precautions with face masks and PPE and washing your hands frequently, all those types of things. So we're essentially trying to limit your contact to new individuals that might potentially spread the virus. So again, isolation and quarantine can be confusing, but essentially what we want you to do is minimize your contact with outside folks and come to Virginia Tech and get ready to have a great experience.
So speaking of a good time, sometimes folks just might not abide by this commitment, and everyone is not necessarily holding that as sacred as others. So how do we kind of go about making sure that students will abide by that commitment, and what happens if folks don't kind of adhere to it?
Well, I have the great privilege of meeting with people who make poor decisions. So if you want to avoid having to be with me, you'll abide by the Hokie Wellbeing commitment. So, but in all seriousness, it is an extremely important document that we have taken great care to craft, and again is meant for the health and well-being of all of our students. So. You know, it calls us to our best selves. In order for us to be together, we need to be safe together. And so we take it really seriously. So if you choose to disregard the agreement, there will be consequences. So, you know, you could be visiting with some of our colleagues at the university who oversee student conduct. And if really you disregard the safety of our community, it's a situation where we'll really have to evaluate whether you living on campus is the right situation. Again, to be together, we need to work together. And so it's a really important part of our process. And we know that Hokies do the best they can for each other. So we're not anticipating it to be a problem, but we do need to take it seriously.
Thank you for that. And folks are curious, do off-campus students, will they have something very similar to this commitment to health and well-being?
So yeah, the Dean of Students Office is putting together a similar kind of request, again, a call to our best selves, a pledge that we'll ask students to commit to. But we know that when folks are on campus that we're gonna have to call them to be you know, socially distant, that we're going to have our, you know, our best practices as it relates to how we enter buildings, touching, washing our hands, etc. So we do expect similar guidelines for all of our students.
Awesome. So we talked a decent amount about how we have to kind of be in this together, but there's also this element that we have a commitment to maintaining our facilities and keeping them cleanly and you know, just as safe from a kind of department's perspective. And so this question is for Amber. She thought she was going to get out of questions as well. So first question is, how have cleaning schedules been adjusted, or what changes have been made around cleanliness in our residence halls?
Thanks, Kendall. So I think it was mentioned earlier, just the dedication of our housekeeping staff, and really since this has begun, this pandemic, our cleaning staff have been doing enhanced cleaning within our facilities, particularly in the common spaces on high touch point areas such as door handles and elevator buttons and public and shared bathrooms and places like that. So our housekeeping has been doing that since the beginning, and will continue to do that throughout next semester. So specifically, the frequency of which the cleaning is done is going to be increased. Our housekeeping staff are using disinfectants or using cleaning products that are like a disinfectant grade cleaning product to make sure to kill you know, any kind of remaining virus. They're also changing their PPE more often to protect themselves and any kind of cross-contamination. And as mentioned in several you know, documents that have been put out by the university, hand sanitizing stations will be located in common areas, in lobbies, entrances, and so those kind of things will be made more available to students.
Thank you. And Sean, you mentioned this a little bit earlier around the difference between quarantine and isolation. So can you generally give us an overview of what isolation means and how we might be doing that in our residence halls?
Great, thanks, Kendall. So yeah, isolation means that we are monitoring you. You're asymptomatic, but you know, you might have some extenuating circumstances. Again, maybe you traveled to an area that that was a hotspot. Maybe you just had a relative that tested positive, or something like that. So we have planned for that. So we have some space offline for the fall. So a facility that we will not house students in normally, except in isolation or quarantine circumstances. So it's an entire building. If your health provider directs you to isolate or quarantine, then we will help you make that transition. We have got a great process in place, so meals would be delivered to your room. You'll have a private bathroom in the room. You'll be checking in with your health center provider, and they will provide instructions on testing, all those pieces. So we've had the chance to really fine tune that protocol and make sure that it's a safe experience for our students, that it's an experience where you would just be in the room by yourself. We're working with our academic colleagues to make sure that course delivery can still continue during that time. But overall, you just want to think of it as a time that we're monitoring your health, providing a space for you to make sure that you're getting well, you have your necessities, and that you're minimizing contact with any other individuals.
And speaking of that contact, if students are in isolation, they're likely going to miss classes. So how might class absences be handled?
Well, you can just tell them that Kendall said it's okay to miss class, and I'm sure your professors will be fine with it.
Don't put my name on it.
But short of that, we have some wonderful colleagues in our Dean of Students office that are great advocates for students as they're encountering difficulties. So sometimes, that's a death in the family or just a serious medical issue, but we will help inform the Dean of Students office about your isolation, and they will, be sending and communicating with your instructors. And really that's a big piece of Virginia Tech is we do not want students showing up to class if they are ill or not feeling well. That's part of our wellness agreement. That is part of us just being in it together. So there's going to be a lot of work for us to just make sure that that you're telling us when you're not feeling well, and that we're helping communicate with your professors as well.
Awesome. So we're kind of nearing our end. We got about 15 minutes or so left. And so this next question is for Amber. It's really centered around engagement. A part of the college experiences, kind of being in the residence halls and doing a lot of different things and going to events and joining clubs and such like that. And a lot of folks are maybe a little concerned about how are we going to do this in this kind of social distance way. And so can you maybe generally talk about what opportunities students will have to kind of socialize and interact with others, and how can like social distancing maybe show up in that engagement?
Sure, Kendall. So exactly, we know that connecting with each other, creating relationships and friendships with other students is extremely important, and one of the best things about living in a residence hall. And so we want to try and find ways to continue doing that and giving students opportunities to do that. And so we're still kind of looking at what that might specifically look like. We have to obviously abide by the guidelines that the governor's puts in place, and who knows what it'll exactly look like in a couple of months. But we're still planning some smaller group activities. We're still going to be using virtual engagement opportunities, and we're still figuring out exactly what that'll look like, but we do want to encourage students to make those connections and find ways to build those relationships. And we'll just be asking them to, in everything that we do, just be asking students to abide by that wellness commitment, practice their social distancing or their physical distancing more so, wearing their masks, using hand sanitizer, so that they can still kind of get out and about and create those connections.
In regards to engagement in lounges, so currently we're reviewing all of the lounges to see what we can accommodate in regards to social distancing. We're checking out the size and furnishings within, so we can see about the ability to minimize contact transmission. We're also reviewing and looking over the CDC guidelines, so we can have a baseline on what to do in regards to social distancing and precautions within lounges. We know that some of the guidelines are likely to change between now and August, so we will be regularly evaluating those and updating our procedures for those common spaces. We definitely want them to be in use, but also in a safe manner.
Thank you. So that kind of wraps up our formal questions, but we wanted to circle back a little bit to cleanliness. We had another question that was a little bit more repeatedly asked, and this one is for Amber. Could you kind of go back to cleaning, and how does cleaning work for traditional style residence halls versus suite style residence halls?
Sure. So in the buildings that have a common bathroom, our housekeeping staff regularly goes in and cleans those areas. In the buildings where students will be living in suite styles, students are responsible for cleaning those bathrooms themselves. They usually come up with some sort of schedule, but they actually clean those bathrooms themselves. So it'll be really important that as they're packing all of the things that they're going to be bringing to Virginia Tech, that they're making sure that they're packing generous amounts of cleaning products and disinfecting products so that they're able to go ahead and clean those bathrooms.
Awesome, thank you. And so those are all of the formal questions. We tried, and I'm actually surprised and really proud of us that we got through just about everything. And so I wanted to give some space. Is there anything that you all might have forgotten or wish to kind of reiterate around the questions that you were asked before I asked my kind of closing trivia-esque question? I'm looking at heads. They're like, no, they're tired of talking. So here goes the question, and everyone can chime in here. Given all the uncertainty of what the fall might look like, I think it's really important for us to try to find some hope in some of the chaos. And so this question is a good place to kind of land our conversation. What are you looking forward to the most, or what are you hoping for kind of in this coming academic year?
Well, I will say I cannot wait to see students back on campus. Again, I told you I've done this for a while, and it's honestly super creepy here without you all. And it's weird. It doesn't feel right. And so we need you to be here, and we can't wait to see you. I've got some great face masks planned for you. I'm currently sporting Baby Yoda, but I got a couple of good ones on the way. So I honestly just cannot wait to have students back on campus. It is going to be the highlight of my year, I think, to see move-in happen and see our campus begin to return to having students here, to having a great time, and just to being a part of everything that's important here at Virginia Tech.
I'll say for me, slightly biased answer here, but I work with some amazing faculty staff members who guide our living learning programs. And so I'm really excited to see what this year looks like. I know that there will be, that there's been some curveballs and there will continue to be, but we're working through it, and we're committed to having really great experiences for all of our incoming Hokies. And so whether that is with some of our in-person engagements or whether that's virtually, we're looking forward to a really great year.
So I'll chime in here. I guess what I'm really looking forward to is similar to what Sean had just stated. And we are, again, very proud of the services here in dining and the program that we've built. And it's just not the same when the space is empty. And I know that fall will be new, but we are very much looking forward to learning what that new is and building it together. So really looking forward to August, having everyone back in town.
I cannot wait for everyone to come back to Blacksburg. I'm also super excited for football. I want to jump to Enter Sandman so bad, and I cannot wait to jump with each and every one of you. So bring on football, bring all the students back. I'm ready for the energy back in Blacksburg, and welcome to campus, everyone.
I think I'm the last one to go. I will say that I am excited, particularly for our first year incoming students, and just them getting the opportunity to kind of officially become Hokies and join the Hokie community and have an opportunity to be here in Blacksburg and experience what a great community this really is.
Well, thank you all for sharing. And if you all are watching, you can clearly see that our folks are really invested in the experiences that students will have, and we cannot wait to have folks back on campus. As you can see, Sean is very, very lonely without you. But we thank you for participating with us in this conversation. We hope that the information that we share proves to be beneficial to you. As a reminder, please check your Virginia Tech email. That is the way that we will officially communicate with you all around updates to your housing in whatever way that might happen. Visit our website. The Fall 2020 website will, in an ongoing way, be updated regularly with information, so you want to check that, as well as our housing website, housing.vt.edu. I feel like Chelsea is trying to chime in. Are you? Is that what's happening?
If I was to chime in, all I would say is please check your Virginia Tech email. All the emails from me are very important and have a lot of great information in them. So please always check your VT email.
Yeah, and like Amber said, we welcome you to the Hokie Nation. Congratulations for those that are going to be joining us as first-year students in the fall. And we look forward to seeing you at Move In. Take care, everyone.